Mhm, mhm, mhm. Alrighty. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for being here for our introductory SACNAS meeting for spring 2021. If you've been a member for a while, we're sorry that you haven't seen, or we're sorry that we haven't seen you guys in a while with the pandemic and everything else going on. It was a little hard to maintain a chapter, but we're hoping to be back, and we've have some pretty exciting events planned for this year. My name is Jaime, Jaime Cordova. I'm the chapter president. I'm a third year PhD student in the genetics department. And we are recording this for those who weren't able to make it, and this will go on to our YouTube channel. That way people can watch it later on and learn a little bit about SACNAS and learn a little bit about the events that we have planned, or some of the events that we have planned for this semester. So first, if you're not familiar with SACNAS, which I believe everyone here may be familiar with them, but who knows, whoever's watching this later on may not be familiar with it. So SACNAS is a Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science. It's a society of scientists that are dedicated to fostering success of underrepresented scientists to attain either advanced degrees, careers, positions of leaderships in science. And I should clarify that while the name has historically been Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science, the goal of SACNAS, as in the national organization, because we are a chapter as part of a national organization, and our own chapter is dedicated to all underrepresented groups, or helping all underrepresented groups and all underrepresented scientists, whether that be based on ethnicity, sexuality, income, stuff of that sort. So the goals of SACNAS is to, again, increase the number of underrepresented minorities with advanced degrees in science. Also to increase the governmental commitment to advancing underrepresented minorities in science. So increasing resources, eliminating barriers, and increasing equity across different institutions, whether that be in academia or whether that be in government, for example, or industry. And also one of the other goals of SACNAS is to advocate for policies and resources that help improve and expand opportunities in all of the US's STEM enterprise for underrepresented minorities. So this is gonna, like I said, this is gonna be quick, and we actually need a new SACNAS chapter picture, but the current chapter has not been able to meet in person in a year. So so we are the UW-Madison SACNAS chapter. We've been around for a couple of years. We're hoping to get things kind of a little bit more rolling this year in terms of activities and stuff of that sort. Oh yeah, we can do a virtual picture. So we'll try that for everyone that is here right now. So yeah, so so talk a little bit about the chapter. We try and meet monthly, and that's the goal for this upcoming semester, and also to be doing either 1 or 2 events monthly. Again, for this semester, we tend to not meet in the summer, but we do try and if there's an outreach opportunity that comes up in the summer, then we'll try and take advantage of that as well. So to introduce the chapter board, so Dr. Ana Scope is a faculty advisor, and so is Dr. Erica Marin Spiota. She's also our faculty advisor. Dr. Scope is in genetics, and I believe and I know that because she's in my department, and I believe Dr. Marin Spiota is in geography or geology. Geology, okay. Yeah, I always forget. I always get those two confused. But yeah, and they're awesome advisors. We'll put up their contact information at the end if you ever have any questions. They're awesome advisors to us, to individually, to the chapter, and they're awesome advisors to have in general and can always help point you in the right direction. For the chapter board, as I already introduced myself, I'm Jaime Cordova. I'm the president of the chapter. We have David Ortiz, who's the vice president. Then Kim Gutierrez, who's the treasurer, and then Kendra Gallo, who's the secretary and outreach coordinator. Unfortunately, due to a mix-up, she wasn't able to attend, but you'll see her at other meetings. Yeah, and in addition to reaching out to the advisors, for the faculty advisors for the chapter, you're always welcome to reach out to any of us. And whether it's something that we handle ourselves or something that, someone else in the chapter handles, or if we can point you in the right direction, we'll do everything that we can to help to try and do that. So we do have a couple of upcoming chapter events. Currently, we are planning for a Woman in Science panel, which was our first event that we were supposed to do last year. But unfortunately, that was supposed to happen right around the time that lockdown happened. And so we weren't able to do that in person or last year, but we want to redo it this year. In honor of Black History Month, we are also hoping to have a very diverse panel that's not just made up of women, but also of Hispanic, Hispanic, Black, and other ethnicities as part of our panel. So that will be happening either late February or early March, and we'll make an announcement and send out a flyer when that happens. From April 9th through 11th, the UW-Madison Science Expeditions Outreach event will be taking place. The chapter tends to be involved in that in one form or another. In the past, people have helped with model organism drawings or help make kind of like DNA beads, stuff like that. It'll be a little bit more challenging with doing that virtually now, but we will work together to be able to figure some sort of event that we can do for that, or some sort of activity that we can do for that. And if you have any questions, you can either reach out to me or reach out to Kendra, who's the outreach coordinator. And then in the middle of every month, we're planning on doing some coffee hours that will involve, for example, being able to talk to different people in either in academia, or we're hoping to get people who are in industry. We're hoping to get postdocs. And we are working on a couple for the next couple of months, at least for the next 2 months, if I remember correctly. But the reason why we don't have it fully planned is we wanted to check what people in the chapter would like to see. So this is not just the board's chapter, it's everyone's chapter, obviously. We want to hear what people who are chapter members would like to see. So we planned out at least to have someone in academia, someone who's a professor, someone who's or people who are in postdocs to have those coffee hours, for example. But what else would people like to see? Hear from industry, hear from government, stuff like that. And you could share any of these ideas with us, whether it be mentoring, outreach, professional development activities, so we can accommodate the programming that we have for the chapter. Again, so far we only have planned out until roughly next month, a little bit of April. So there's a lot of room to be able to accommodate different ideas. And then just wanted to share our contact info. So our website is, actually, I think our website has changed. I had to double check that. But our Twitter is still SACNAS_UW. The Facebook account that we have is SACNAS Madison Chapter. I've included mine and David's email, and you can always contact us. And you can also always contact Anna or Erica. I'm sorry, Dr. Scope or Dr. Marine Spiota. But because they're professors, I'm sure you've emailed professors in the past and they can never, maybe take forever to get back to you because they're so busy. You can always definitely try and reach out to us first. And with that, I think I'm done, and I'll take any questions if there are any, and I'll actually keep it on this, and I'll record the questions if you guys are okay with that. Cool. Or any questions or comments?
So I have more of a comment / maybe.
Yeah, of course.
I think having like professional development activities is a really good idea. I'm also kind of entering that stage in like my grad school experience of like thinking about like postdoc or like, industry or like government. Like my long-term goal has always been to just go, for government agencies. But that's always kind of been a challenge to get or like make connections or network with people that are in those areas. So
especially in academia.
Yeah. So I would say, personally, I think that would be really interesting to get someone that's in like the government agencies to talk to us or to the board or, to the meeting. Would be really cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular, Sophia?
Yeah, like NIH or CDC, or maybe even like smaller, like state public health agencies. I think there's a lot of cool work in individual states and what they're doing in terms of public health and research. And yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I think I have some connections to the local government here that we might be able to bring somebody. And I have connections with the United States Geological Survey here in Madison, but maybe not hitting the right interest there, the USGS.
Yeah, one idea, Sophia, and we can talk to Abby or Michelle about this, is they have a list of all of the SciMed alumni, so they all came to UW, who are now doing work everywhere else. So we might be able to look at that list and see if there's someone working in something you're interested in, then we can have a UW alum come and talk to us.
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just another thing, I guess more of a comment, a thing that I had worked on with the Latinx Cultural Center last semester was putting together like cultural conversations about reappropriating the normal. Especially in academia, it becomes something that has gender normative roles, and also it has a lot of white supremacist culture stuck in academia. And I think one of the things that we had talked about is putting together conversations within like higher ed communities to start targeting and dismantling some of that culture. But the other thing that we've had into consideration is that it does become like another thing on your shoulders when you're stopping and talking about all of the toxic things in academia. So I don't know, it's a thought, but it's also a thought that maybe just existing and doing graduate work is enough. So open to thoughts about that.
For sure. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Something that I we've had some conversation these last couple of days about the chapter is bringing in more undergraduates. So right now we're all graduate students, and I think the thing that makes SACNAS really shine is how collaborative it can be between undergrad and graduate students, both taking leadership positions, and I think the opportunity to mentor students is amazing through SACNAS. So trying to figure out some way to get more undergraduates involved would be great for the chapter.
So I actually do have a connection in the chemistry department for the undergraduate research. I think the problem becomes that undergraduate research is largely attended by predominantly white students. But I do think that, once again, just like advertising within the general chemistry population could be a good way of reaching out to some of the scientists that are young and contemplating science, and Latinx or Chicano or Native American and contemplating science and just haven't found a community for it. I don't think undergrads largely know that these kind of niche communities exist. And I think everybody takes general chemistry when they're interested in science. So I don't know, a thought.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely a kind of like what you mentioned. It's sometimes like undergrads don't maybe necessarily know that there are those niche communities. I could tell you, I didn't really think about all that stuff until I came here. But I went to a really diverse undergrad institution. But yeah, I think that's a really good idea to try and help. I like the idea of, just even in the smallest way, trying to potentially start with undergrads and helping reach out to them to, for example, join the chapter or take on certain initiatives that will help with that. We did have conversations last year, early last year about, or maybe it was the year before that, about sort of like a mentorship program, but because there are several mentorship programs already on campus, we didn't basically want to be rewriting the book in a sense. So, but there are definitely opportunities that we can get involved in to help mentor students that are in undergrad.
So it's very interesting how, here in UW-Madison, there's this issue of having or a lack of undergrads involved. The undergrad where I came from, it was the opposite. I mean, we were trying to get grad students to get involved in all undergrad. And so I was curious, and like, UW is really big and it's massive, and a lot of these students are probably unaware of research opportunities. And so I'm curious if there's is there like a group that is focused on supporting undergrads from underrepresented backgrounds in STEM? And I don't know if maybe like SACNAS has targeted or advertised to them.
I know there's like people, and there's that other one that a couple of my friends that were in STEM for undergrad here were a part of. And I think David had reached out to them, right?
Yeah, I was trying to pull up the email of all the people I emailed advertising. Yeah, so I tried broadcasting. We had a virtual fair last night, and then advertising this event. And hopefully we didn't miss anybody new with this little Zoom hiccup we had. But yeah, reaching out and getting students involved is difficult, and it's really difficult now in the pandemic, because if you just send another email, that just looks like another email to somebody who isn't looking to get engaged in something else. So maybe if we have connections to professors that teach in like chemistry, like Lula said, or in biology, some of those more general courses, and having them maybe plug us every now and then in the lecture would be a good avenue to take.
Yeah, my undergrad would do that. They would just go into like these massive, early chemistry general classes and just like advertise SACNAS, and some people would show up, some people were not, but they're at that stage where they're just like sampling everything. So yeah.
So interestingly enough, because I worked with the Latinx Cultural Center for the Latinx Heritage Month last semester, and we talked a little bit about creating like some sort of mentorship program with graduate students, but then I was like, I don't know any Latinx graduate students. I mean, I know a couple, but like still a couple isn't like a community, and it's still all this work on just 2 people. I don't know how many people in the Latinx Cultural Center are actually in STEM, but there is an interest in the student body. It might take like a little bit of time to put together, but considering Latinx Cultural Center sets up the Latinx Heritage Month celebrations the same month as like new student orientation, there's huge interest in like conflating the new student orientation kind of material that they put together with pairing people up with a mentor in their field. So that was kind of a thought we bounced around, but again, I don't know enough Latinx students who are here for a significant period of time because I just transferred into the PhD program, and there's just still not a huge population in the chemistry PhD program of Latinx and Native American students. It's still,
Yeah, there's still a lot of room to grow for that in that aspect. But I think
true.
yeah, but I think I think that's an interesting idea that we could potentially follow up on. But again, it's like you said, making sure it doesn't lay on the shoulders of people who are already overworked with, for example, doing diversity outreach, stuff like that. But yeah,
volunteer once and you get every email the next year. You get every email for a year.
Yeah, and Sophia, something that which you mentioned earlier about reaching out to those kinds of groups. I think in the past we have worked with, for example, like people like Kim mentioned, the people group. We've done that in the past, but yeah, with the pandemic, it's just been a little bit harder to do that kind of work. That's not an excuse. That's just like, kind of the reality of it. Not that we couldn't have made a harder effort. But I think there are a couple of groups on campus that we could definitely try and reach out to try and set up more established connections and get undergrads into the chapter, and undergrads aware that there is a community for them.
How was undergrad participation before pandemic? Was it?
It's always been minimal. Yeah, I think I've been involved since I got here. So in 2018, then I believe there was 1 or 2 undergrads. And then it's once that undergrad graduated, then our number basically was poof. We didn't have any more undergrads. So
we did
and
have
it's
an
a
undergrad virtual fair last night though.
Yeah, we did
had
have an undergrad stop by yesterday, which is awesome. And I mean, that's not to say, I'm sure there are undergrads who are on our mailing list, or for example, and maybe they just can't make it to the meetings or something along those lines. But one of our goals has always been to try and reach out to more undergrads on campus, because the community is there. I can't remember the exact number, but there is a decent sized amount of Hispanic and Native American undergrads here on campus. It's still a small number compared to the whole campus community, but there is a nice number on campus. So hoping to reach out to them is a good goal.
I like the idea of like getting ourselves to be broadcast at least these general like bio classes. Aside from chemistry and bio, what other big general classes does every undergrad take here on campus?
Genetics.
Genetics, yeah.
We've had to TA that.
I'm sure probably like some physics courses.
Is there like a biotech class? Yeah,
probably.
I mean, in general, I feel like
I think there's like a statistics class that everybody in bioinformatics takes.
That one would be a good one.
Yeah, I think like first level entry science class, I think would be like a good target, because that's where a lot of students are just like really interested in sampling a lot of things, trying to figure out, where they fit in, and you these like curious minds, and then they find their community. But yeah, I guess like what is the goal with undergrads? More like establishing like a grad student undergrad mentorship, or like professional development, or trying to steer them to like grad school? Like what is the goal? Because then if you target like undergrads that are just doing research, it'd probably be a good idea to know like how many of them are actually doing research. If that's something they're interested in. Because there's already barriers of getting involved in research. If you're not getting paid, if it's not paid research, then you can't do it. There's barriers. And so I'm just curious, like what's the goal? Yeah, so then we can steer where to aim.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal with, and any of you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the goal with involving undergrads has always been one to, hey, there's this community for you. There's this community that you can get involved in. So, I mean, when I came here, for example, SACNAS was the first thing that I joined, simply because I knew, okay, there's a community there of people who, I know are kind of like-minded, or at least look like me. So that's the biggest goal. I think the second biggest goal would be to sort of develop not like an official mentorship or what's the word I'm looking for? Not an official mentorship where it's like, oh, I'm mentoring these two students, but more along the lines of like, hey, for example, this is where you can get research opportunities, or hey, you need someone to look at your CV. Well, here, where we have this CV workshop or something along those lines. So I think that's the primary goal with, or the two main goals, I should say, with increasing undergrad participation in the chapter.
And I think the other one was to also get them to be able to go to the conference. So like we've tried to raise money in the past to set undergrad so they get like opportunities to present their research.
Yeah, and go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say another class I just thought of, which might be really good to tap into, is like those biology 151, 152 classes, because they do have a component where they require them to do a semester of research. And so that'd probably be like the prime time, because they're just getting a little bit of research experience and they can have a network of students who are doing it professionally, that we could probably tap into. I don't know. I've had 3 undergrads that have come from that. So
yeah, it's a good idea.
Just in my lab.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Sorry, I was gonna say,
go ahead.
Seth Blair runs that.
Who?
Seth Blair in
Seth Blair.
iBio.
Okay.
Yeah. Alex is in his lab. Sorry for interrupting.
No, not at all. Thanks. I was just like, wait, who's Seth Blair? Sorry, go ahead.
No, just that over the summer, we actually got a Nobuche chapter on its feet. And so one of the things, because I do TA general chemistry, and the first lecture of the semester, I try to tell all of my students, and I try to send resources to all of the lead instructors, like, hey, the Multicultural Student Center exists, and a lot of places are still doing virtual events, and a lot of these students still need a community, whether they're in town or back home, still need a community to be able to relate to. Yeah. And I think just, I think we were actually able to recruit a few people that way. I think the problem becomes there are just so many communities on campus that it's we try to squeeze all of them into a slide and put the QR codes for the Multicultural Student Center, the Latinx Cultural Center, the Black Cultural Center. But, just I think creating I have a page of resources that I try to expand every time I learn about a new relevant resource. And so when I got Nobuche started, we did start reaching out to everyone like that, everyone emails and telling people in everyone emails, tell your students that this is happening. We did a Juneteenth celebration that kind of helped get people in department aware that they have to share these resources. Yeah. Because I think that's kind of a struggle. You have a lot of professors who are okay, yeah, these resources exist, so what? And they don't understand that we're so overwhelmed with information, and multicultural student resources are so compartmentalized to, if you need a community, you can go look for it. Yeah. And that kind of logic that people forget that there are so many resources out there that making a community is not the first thing on our list. Especially with imposter phenomenon and students trying to just look like they fit in when they don't feel like they look like they fit in, and when other people are pointing out that they don't look like they fit in. So I don't know. I definitely think that these general resources can be a thing that we spread among faculty. I don't think that it's something that we can get every single person to share, but I think for me, it's been reaching out to some of the chemistry lead instructors. Mm-hmm. But when I think about SACNAS, I'm thinking about also the engineering community is probably a largely underrepresented community. Yeah.
But sometimes it can be a little difficult with I mean, for example, like all the board, I would say in the past, the board has basically always been life sciences.
Yeah,
So it's definitely a little bit harder to get towards the engineering and technology portion of it. But I think that's definitely a group that needs to be reached out to. And that
it's also hard because
in some way or
engineers
another
don't
we can.
consider themselves. Yeah,
I sent
So-
the flyer to the engineering like grad programs. No one ever replied. Like their program coordinator didn't reply to me, but I sent the flyer to them. So
Oh, okay, for sure.
I think that there's somebody I know in engineering who actually represents like the students and not the program, and I think that she might be a person to reach out to in engineering about spreading that information to the actual students so it doesn't get lost in like, yeah, this is the, you know, program resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you can help us make that connection, that'd be awesome.
So
Absolutely.
I'm kind of hearing like maybe this year is like a year that we really spend advertising, really kind of building the chapter, really getting new students into the program or into the organization, and then from there we can really start building, right, the broader, bigger SACNAS ideals. I'm looking at time. It's 7:05.
Oh, yeah.
5.
Yeah.
I gotta head out. But,
Okay.
I think that sounds great, and I think maybe we can meet again and really hash out some ideas and really, I'd like just split up the work and start building this undergraduate chapter.
Yeah. Having an undergraduate portion of the chapter. Yeah, and sorry, I totally missed that it was already 5 o'clock. But yeah, no, I think this sounds really good. I agree with David that it sounds like we're kind of, making it a big goal to advertise and increase undergraduate not only involvement but also retention, to hopefully, help foster that community amongst undergraduates. I mean, we're all grad students here, so it's we were involved, and maybe we've been involved in SACNAS in the past, or we found this community because we needed that community. Yeah, I think helping develop the an undergrad portion of the chapter is a good goal to have.
The great thing is without even a formalized mentorship program, everybody here is a grad student. So there's resources for people from all over life sciences, and that's useful.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That is working to our advantage. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I am going to end the meeting since we did go over. Thank you everyone for dealing with the little hiccup earlier with the Zoom and for staying a little bit over than our planned meeting time. We will hopefully have an announcement soon for the Women in Science panel, which will hopefully happen either at the end of this month or in early April. Or I'm sorry, no, early March. I don't know what month it is anymore. And then we'll have an announcement for the following meeting also. Cool. All right. Thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.
Stay warm.